Unjustly fired and desperate after saving a stranger's life, Pam faces a bleak future, fearing for her daughter's well-being. But then the man she helped reappears, utterly transformed and seeking his rescuer. He discovers the cruelty she suffered because of her kindness and holds an unexpected key that could shatter her despair. Witness the stunning moment where one act of compassion might unlock an unbelievable opportunity. Subscribe and give a thumbs up to see this incredible turn of fate. The aroma of frying potatoes and sizzling burger patties hung heavy in the air, a familiar olfactory signature of Quick Bite Burgers. Behind the counter, Pam moved with practiced efficiency, her smile weary but genuine as she took orders and bagged meals. It wasn't the career path she'd envisioned with her MBA, but it paid the bills, kept a roof over her and her daughter Lily's heads, and offered a routine that anchored her fragile stability. The lunchtime rush was beginning to swell, a wave of hungry office workers and students flooding the small restaurant. Pam focused on the next customer, a man whose slightly disheveled appearance suggested he might have been out for a run, though his clothes seemed more suited for relaxing at home than athletic activity. He swayed slightly as he approached the counter, his face pale beneath a sheen of sweat. He mumbled his order, something simple like a burger and fries, his voice faint. Pam repeated it back, noticing his eyes weren't quite focused. "Are you feeling all right, sir?" she asked, concern etching lines onto her forehead. He nodded vaguely, fumbling in his pocket for his wallet, but his movements were sluggish, uncoordinated. Before he could retrieve it, his eyes rolled back in his head, his body went limp, and he crumpled to the floor with a soft thud, narrowly missing the metal leg of a nearby table. Gasps rippled through the waiting customers. For a split second, everyone froze. Pam, however, felt a jolt of recognition, a cold dread mixed with adrenaline. The sudden pallor, the disorientation, the collapse. It mirrored frighteningly the episodes her own mother used to suffer before her diabetes diagnosis. Without hesitation, she vaulted over the low counter separating the staff area from the customer space, landing lightly beside the fallen man. "Someone call 911. Now!" she yelled, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. Pam knelt beside the man, quickly checking his breathing. It was shallow but present. His skin felt clammy. Remembering her mother's emergency kit, she knew what he likely needed most immediately was sugar. "Does anyone have juice? Or even a regular soda? Anything sugary?" she called out, her eyes scanning the crowd. A teenager near the drinks dispenser hesitantly offered a half-full cup of cola. Pam took it gratefully, carefully tilting the man's head back slightly and trying to get a few sips into his mouth. He coughed weakly but didn't seem able to swallow properly. The priority was the ambulance, but preventing the blood sugar from dropping further was critical. Just then the restaurant's owner, Edwin Maxwell, bustled out from the back office, his face contorted in annoyance. "What's all this commotion? Pam, what are you doing out here? Get back behind the counter." "He collapsed, Mr. Maxwell," Pam explained quickly, her focus still on the man. "I think it might be his blood sugar. We need sugar and someone's calling 911. Edwin's eyes narrowed as he took in the scene, the prone man, the concerned crowd, Pam kneeling on the floor. He didn't see a medical emergency. He saw a disruption, and worse, he saw someone who looked, in his prejudiced view, like a dirty homeless man, causing trouble and potentially costing him money. "Homeless? Pam, are you giving away drinks now? Get that freeloader out of here. He's probably faking it to get free food. I run a business, not a charity ward." The accusation stung Pam, but her worry for the unconscious man overrode her indignation. "He's not faking, Mr. Maxwell. Look at him. He's pale, clammy. These are signs. My mother had diabetes, I recognize this. He needs help," she insisted, her voice trembling slightly with urgency and frustration. The arrival of paramedics a few minutes later temporarily shifted the focus. They efficiently assessed the man, confirmed dangerously low blood sugar levels, and administered glucose. As they stabilized him and prepared him for transport, one of the paramedics gave Pam a nod. "Good call on the sugar, ma'am. You reacted quickly. It likely prevented a more severe outcome." Relief washed over Pam, but it was short-lived. As the ambulance pulled away, sirens fading into the distance, Edwin rounded on her, his face flushed with anger. "Look at this mess. You caused a scene, Pam. Giving away product, making everyone uncomfortable. You embarrassed me in front of my customers," he hissed, oblivious to the murmurs of support for Pam coming from some of the patrons who had witnessed her quick thinking. "Mr. Maxwell, I just did what anyone should have done," Pam pleaded, standing up and smoothing down her uniform. He was genuinely ill. It wasn't about free food, it was about saving someone. Edwin scoffed, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. Saving someone? Or encouraging vagrants? You think I don't know the type? They pull stunts like this all the time. And you, jumping over the counter like some kind of action hero making a spectacle. It's unprofessional. Besides, his voice dripped with disdain, associating my clean establishment with, that, is bad for business. He seemed more concerned about the perceived social status of the man than the fact he had nearly died on his floor. The injustice of it made Pam's stomach clench. She had acted out of compassion and experience, and he was twisting it into an act of recklessness and poor judgment. He wasn't homeless, Mr. Maxwell, Pam tried again, though she knew it was likely futile. He just looked unwell. He needed help. Edwin waved a dismissive hand. Details. What matters is perception, Pam. And the perception is that you coddled a bum and disrupted my business. I can't have employees who don't understand priorities. He pointed towards the back office. My office? Now. Pam's heart sank. She knew what was coming. The finality in his tone, the coldness in his eyes, it was unmistakable. She followed him numbly, the lingering smell of antiseptic from the paramedics mingling unpleasantly with the scent of grease. The customers watched her go, some with sympathy, others already turning back to their interrupted meals. The brief drama was over for them, but for Pam, it felt like a recurring nightmare was about to begin again. Inside the cramped, cluttered office, Edwin didn't waste time. Pack your things, Pam. You're fired. The words, though expected, hit her like a physical blow. Fired? Mr. Maxwell, please. I need this job. I have a daughter to support. My situation, it's difficult right now. I promise it won't happen again. I was just trying to help. Her voice cracked, desperation creeping in. She hated pleading, especially to a man like Edwin, but the thought of Lily, of bills piling up, of losing the fragile stability she'd fought so hard to regain, terrified her. She thought of the medical bills still trickling in from her own recovery, the rent that was always due too soon, the constant anxiety of providing for Lily on a minimum wage salary. Losing this job wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a potential catastrophe. Edwin remained unmoved, his expression hard. Difficult situation? Not my problem. My problem is an employee who gives away my inventory, creates a public disturbance, and clearly sides with street trash over loyal customers and her employer. You made your choice when you decided to play Florence Nightingale with that faker. He gestured towards the door. I've already calculated your final pay. Take it and leave. And don't bother using me as a reference. Pam felt a surge of anger mixed with despair. He wasn't faking. And I didn't give anything away that wasn't necessary. You're firing me for showing basic human decency? Edwin slammed his hand on the desk. I'm firing you because you're incompetent and exercised poor judgment. Now get out before I call security to escort you out. He turned his back, shuffling papers pointedly, dismissing her entirely. There was nothing more to say. Defeated, Pam turned and walked out of the office, grabbed her worn handbag from under the counter, and pushed through the restaurant door, ignoring the curious stares. The afternoon sun felt harsh on her tear-filled eyes. A few days drifted by in a haze of anxiety and fruitless searching. Pam spent hours scouring online job boards, polishing her resume, the one that boasted an MBA and a master's in marketing, credentials that felt mocking now, and sending out applications. Each rejection, or worse, the silence that followed an application, chipped away at her dwindling hope. She tried to stay positive for Lily, pasting on a smile during their evenings together, reading bedtime stories with a cheerfulness she didn't feel. But the weight of uncertainty pressed down on her constantly. Rent was due in 2 weeks, and her final paycheck from Quick Bite wouldn't cover it, let alone groceries and Lily's preschool fees. The memory of Edwin's sneering face, his utter lack of compassion, fueled a simmering resentment, but mostly she just felt tired and scared. Meanwhile, back at Quick Bite Burgers, the lunchtime rush was in full swing, albeit with a less efficient, slightly more flustered air since Pam's departure. A man walked in, pausing near the entrance to scan the employees behind the counter. He was dressed impeccably in smart casual wear, tailored trousers, a crisp button-down shirt, polished loafers. His hair was neatly styled, and he carried an air of quiet confidence. It was Josh, the man who had collapsed days earlier, now looking completely transformed from the pale, disheveled individual Pam had helped. He approached the counter, bypassing the ordering queue, and addressed the young cashier. "Excuse me," he said politely, his voice clear and steady. "I was hoping to speak to the young woman who was working here a few days ago. She helped me when I wasn't feeling well." The cashier, a teenager named Kevin who had witnessed the incident, looked uncertain. You mean Pam? Josh nodded, a hopeful expression on his face. Yes, that sounds right. Is she working today? I wanted to thank her properly. Kevin shifted uncomfortably. No. She doesn't work here anymore. Mr. Maxwell fired her. Josh's eyes widened in disbelief. Fired her? What? She saved my life. Just then Edwin, alerted by the pause in the ordering line and recognizing Josh despite his changed appearance, hurried out from the back, his face instantly clouding over with suspicion and hostility. You again. Edwin barked, pointing a finger accusingly. What are you doing back here? Trying another scam? I thought I told you loafers to stay away. Josh recoiled slightly, stunned by the unprovoked aggression. Excuse me? I came back to thank the employee who helped me, and to pay for the food she tried to give me. He pulled out a high-quality leather wallet, extracting a $50 bill. I believe I owe you for a burger and fries and for the trouble. Edwin scoffed, ignoring the offered money. Pay? Don't insult my intelligence. Just because you put on some fancy clothes doesn't mean I don't recognize a bum when I see one. You caused a scene, got my employee fired for trying to steal from me for you, and now you're back? Get out. Get out of my restaurant before I call the police this time. Edwin's voice rose, attracting the attention of the entire restaurant. Customers stared, whispering amongst themselves. Josh felt a flush of anger rise, but he kept his composure. Sir, you are mistaken. I wasn't scamming anyone. I had a medical emergency. My blood sugar dropped dangerously low. I went for a jog that morning and hadn't eaten properly. Your employee, Pam, recognized the signs and acted incredibly quickly. She deserves commendation, not dismissal. Edwin laughed humorlessly. Medical emergency? Jogging? Likely story. You probably found those clothes in a dumpster. I know your type. Always looking for a handout, causing problems for decent business owners. Now, I won't tell you again. Leave. He took a step towards Josh, gesturing aggressively towards the door. Several customers looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Josh realized arguing further with the enraged, irrational owner was pointless. It was clear Edwin was blinded by prejudice and his own narrative. More importantly, he now knew Pam had been fired specifically because she had helped him. A deep sense of responsibility and indignation settled over him. He put his wallet away, gave Edwin one last look of mingled pity and disgust, and turned to leave. You've made a serious mistake, Josh said quietly but with conviction before walking out into the street, his mind racing. He had to find Pam. He owed her far more than just thanks. Pam sat at her small kitchen table, staring blankly at the laptop screen displaying yet another polite but firm rejection email. While your qualifications are impressive, we've decided to move forward with other candidates. It was the fifth such email that week. Discouragement was morphing into a cold dread. She had initially felt hopeful. Her resume was strong, her experience, though paused, was substantial. But then came the phone interviews that seemed promising, only to end abruptly after they mentioned contacting her previous employer. She knew with sickening certainty what Edwin was telling them. He wasn't just saying she was fired. He was poisoning the well, likely repeating his baseless accusation of theft or incompetence. She had tried explaining the situation to one recruiter who had seemed sympathetic, detailing the medical emergency and Edwin's reaction. But the recruiter's tone had shifted, becoming distant and non-committal. It was clear they believed the employer over the dismissed employee. Who would hire someone accused of stealing even without proof? Tears welled in Pam's eyes, hot and stinging. She slammed the laptop shut, burying her face in her hands. The weight of it all, the injustice, the financial pressure, the fear for Lily's future, felt suffocating. How could one act of kindness, one moment of basic human compassion, lead to such disastrous consequences? She thought of Lily sleeping peacefully in the next room, blissfully unaware of the storm clouds gathering over their lives. Pam had always prided herself on her resilience, on her ability to pick herself up after life knocked her down, after her husband Mark's devastating illness and death, after the fog of depression that followed, after the painful closure of the marketing consultancy they had built together. But this felt different. This felt like being punished for doing the right thing, trapped by a lie she couldn't disprove. A sob escaped her, raw and ragged. Just as she was succumbing to despair, the doorbell rang, sharp and unexpected. Wiping her eyes hastily, Pam took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. Who could it be? She wasn't expecting anyone. Maybe it was the landlord, coming early for the rent she didn't have. Her stomach churned with anxiety as she walked to the door and peered through the peephole. Standing on her doorstep was the man from the restaurant. Not the disheveled, collapsing version, but the well-dressed, composed man she'd briefly glimpsed leaving Quick Bite the day she was fired, the man Edwin had chased out. It was Josh. Her heart pounded. Why was he here? How did he find her? Hesitantly, she opened the door a crack. Yes, she asked, her voice still thick with unshed tears. Josh offered a tentative, respectful smile. Pam? I hope I'm not disturbing you. I'm Josh Evans. You helped me at Quick Bite Burgers the other day. I came back to thank you and, well, I heard what happened. About your job. He gestured vaguely, looking genuinely concerned. I also wanted to apologize. It seems my unfortunate medical episode inadvertently caused you a great deal of trouble with your employer. Pam opened the door wider, surprised by his sincerity and politeness. It wasn't your fault, she managed, though the unfairness still stung. Mr. Maxwell he didn't understand. She felt awkward, standing there in her worn-out sweats, her eyes red from crying, while he looked so put together. Please come in, she offered hesitantly, stepping back to let him into her small, tidy but sparsely furnished living room. Josh stepped inside, his eyes taking in the modest apartment, the framed photo of Pam and a smiling little girl on the side table. Thank you, he said, turning back to her. Firstly, I want to express my deepest gratitude. You acted incredibly fast. The paramedic said you likely saved me from much worse complications, maybe even saved my life. I can't thank you enough. Pam flushed slightly. I just did what seemed right. My mother had similar issues. There was an awkward pause. Josh cleared his throat. Pam, I did a little research after I learned you were fired. I felt responsible and honestly outraged on your behalf. I found out through some discreet inquiries. Please don't worry, nothing intrusive about your background. An MBA, a master's in marketing, highly impressive. He paused, looking genuinely perplexed. Forgive me for asking, but why were you working at Quick Bite? With your qualifications, it seems unexpected. Pam hesitated. It wasn't a story she shared easily. The grief was still a raw wound, the failure of her company a source of deep shame. But looking at Josh's kind, concerned face and remembering his vulnerability on the restaurant floor, she felt an unexpected urge to confide. Taking a deep breath, she began to tell him about Mark, about their shared dream of building their own marketing consultancy, the joy and success they had found, brief as it was. She spoke of the devastating cancer diagnosis that shattered their world, the grueling months of treatment that drained their savings and ended with Mark's passing. Her voice grew thick with emotion as she described the crushing depression that followed, a darkness that consumed her for months, making it impossible to focus on work, on anything. The company, our company, it just fell apart, she whispered, tears threatening again. We had clients, projects, but I couldn't function. It closed just 3 months after Mark died. She explained how the medical bills and the cost of her own therapy for depression had depleted what little savings remained. By the time I started to feel, well, functional again, the money was gone. I needed work, any work, immediately. Quick Bite was hiring and it was close to Lily's preschool. She gestured towards the photo of her daughter. It wasn't glamorous, but it was something. Josh listened patiently, his expression filled with empathy. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer platitudes, just let her speak. When she finished, the silence hung heavy for a moment, filled only by the quiet hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. Pam felt exposed, vulnerable, having laid bare her struggles and losses to this relative stranger. Josh finally broke the silence, his voice gentle. Pam, thank you for sharing that with me. I can only imagine how difficult that must have been, and continues to be. You've shown incredible strength. He reached into his inner jacket pocket and pulled out a sleek, minimalist business card. He held it out to her. I understand needing a job. And I believe things happen for a reason. Pam took the card hesitantly. It read, Joshua Evans, Director, Apex Marketing Solutions. Below the name and title was an address in the city's prestigious downtown business district. Apex Marketing Solutions, she recognized the name instantly. It was the largest, most respected marketing firm in the entire state, known for its high-profile clients and innovative campaigns. Her eyes widened as she looked from the card back to Josh, realization dawning. He was the director? The man who had fainted in a fast food joint? Josh saw the understanding and perhaps disbelief in her eyes. Yes, he confirmed with a small smile. That's me. The jog I mentioned? I was near Quick Bite after an early morning run, further from home than usual, and hadn't managed my blood sugar properly. A stupid mistake. He leaned forward slightly. Pam, I didn't just come here to thank you or apologize. I came here because I believe your skills are being wasted. That man Edwin firing you was not only unjust, it was foolish. He tapped the business card she held. Come to this address tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. sharp. As for me, we need to talk about your job situation. I think I might have an answer for you. He didn't elaborate further, leaving an air of mystery, but his tone held a clear promise. Pam stared at the card, then back at Josh, a flicker of hope igniting within the suffocating anxiety she'd felt just moments before. Apex Marketing Solutions? Could it be possible? After everything? It seemed too surreal, too much like a plot from a movie. Yet, the sincerity in Josh's eyes, the weight of the card in her hand, felt undeniably real. Tomorrow? 9 a.m., she repeated, her voice barely a whisper. Josh nodded, his smile encouraging. 9 a.m. I'll be waiting. He stood up, preparing to leave. Get some rest, Pam. You deserve some good news. He paused at the door. And please don't worry about Edwin or what he might say. His opinion holds no weight where it matters. With a final nod, he was gone, leaving Pam standing in her living room, clutching a business card that felt like a lifeline. Sleep was elusive that night. Pam's mind raced, alternating between cautious optimism and ingrained skepticism. Could Josh truly offer her a position at a powerhouse like Apex Marketing? It seemed too good to be true. She replayed their conversation, his empathy, his insistence. She thought about her qualifications, rusting from disuse but still valid. The idea of working in a professional marketing environment again, utilizing her skills, earning a salary that could truly support her and Lily, it was a dizzying prospect. Yet, the fear of disappointment lingered. What if it was just an interview? What if they too called Edwin? What if Josh's offer was merely a gesture, easily overruled by HR policies or board members? She forced herself to breathe, reminding herself of Josh's quiet confidence and his parting words about Edwin. She had to take this chance. For Lily. For herself. The next morning, Pam meticulously chose her best interview outfit. A charcoal gray suit she hadn't worn since before Mark's illness. It felt strange, like putting on a costume from a previous life, but it also bolstered her confidence. She arranged for Lily to stay with a neighbor, explaining she had a potentially important meeting. Dropping Lily off, she hugged her daughter tightly, whispering, "Wish Mommy luck." Promptly at 8:45 a.m., Pam stood before the imposing glass and steel facade of the Apex Marketing Solutions headquarters. Taking a deep breath, she pushed through the revolving doors into a lobby that hummed with quiet professionalism. Sleek furniture, modern art, and the low murmur of voices created an atmosphere worlds away from quick-bite burgers. She approached the polished reception desk, her heart pounding against her ribs. "Good morning," she said, her voice steadier than she expected. "I'm Pamela Stanton. I have a 9 o'clock appointment with Mr. Joshua Evans." The receptionist checked her screen, smiled warmly, and picked up a phone. "Mr. Evans, Miss Stanton is here for her 9 o'clock. A moment later she hung up. "Mr. Evans' executive assistant will be right down to escort you." Almost immediately, a sharp, professionally dressed woman emerged from the elevator bank and approached Pam with a welcoming smile. "Miss Stanton? I'm Clara, Mr. Evans' assistant. Please follow me." They rode the elevator in silence, the ascent mirroring Pam's own soaring, yet terrified, hope. The elevator opened onto a floor that was even more impressive, spacious, with glass-walled offices offering panoramic city views, and employees moving with focused energy. Clara led her down a hallway to a large corner office. "Mr. Evans is waiting for you," she said, opening the door. Josh stood up from behind a large, modern desk, smiling warmly. "Pam. Welcome. Please come in, have a seat." The office was large and airy, dominated by the stunning view, but tastefully decorated. Josh gestured to one of the comfortable chairs facing his desk. As Pam sat, Clara quietly closed the door behind her. "Thank you for coming," Josh began, sitting down opposite her. "Coffee? Water?" Pam shook her head, managing a small smile. "I'm fine, thank you." Josh leaned back slightly. "Pam, I won't keep you in suspense. As I mentioned, I was deeply impressed not only by your quick thinking and compassion the other day, but also by your professional background once I learned of it. Apex is always looking for talented individuals, people with drive, experience, and integrity. Qualities you clearly possess." He paused, his expression serious but kind. "I understand the circumstances that led you to Quick Bite were born of tragedy and hardship. What Edwin did was reprehensible and frankly idiotic from a business perspective, letting go of someone with your potential over such a petty, prejudiced grievance. He leaned forward again, his gaze direct. We have an opening here, Pam. A significant one. Our copyright manager recently moved out of state, and we need someone meticulous, knowledgeable about intellectual property law within marketing contexts, and highly organized to take over. It involves reviewing campaign materials, ensuring compliance, managing permissions, liaising with legal teams. It requires a sharp mind and attention to detail. Your MBA and marketing background, combined with the resilience and clear-headedness you demonstrated under pressure, make you an ideal candidate in my eyes. Pam felt breathless. Copyright manager? At Apex Marketing Solutions? It wasn't just a job, it was a high-level, challenging role perfectly suited to her education and previous experience. It was the kind of position she hadn't dared to dream of finding again. But, my resume gap? Edwin? She stammered, the old fears resurfacing despite the incredible offer. Josh waved a dismissive hand. Your gap is understandable given your circumstances and frankly, demonstrates resilience, not a lack of ambition. As for Edwin, Josh's expression hardened slightly, his slanderous reference holds zero credibility. I am the director here. My judgment stands. Besides, I may have had a quiet word with the Better Business Bureau and the district franchise manager about the incident and Mr. Maxwell's unprofessional conduct. Let's just say his future management prospects might be under review. A small, satisfying warmth spread through Pam at that thought, quickly overshadowed by the magnitude of what Josh was offering. This position, Josh continued, comes with a competitive salary, full benefits, and the resources of a leading company. It's a demanding role, but one I am confident you can excel at. Consider it my way of repaying a debt, Pam. You helped me without hesitation when I was vulnerable. Now, I want to offer you an opportunity to rebuild the career you deserve. He smiled. So, Miss Stanton, what do you say? Are you interested in becoming Apex Marketing's new copyright manager? Tears welled in Pam's eyes again, but this time, they were tears of overwhelming relief and gratitude. Yes, she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Josh. Thank you.